Okay, reassembly of the mainspring housing. Mainspring housing retaining pin, pin retainer, forward, down, spring, cap pin last. Now we're going to put in the mainspring housing cap pin retaining pin. I compress the 20-pound spring. Spring is flush. Subassembly is correct. Okay, let's reassemble our frame. First thing we're going to put in is a trigger. The trigger shoe and trigger bow, the back of the trigger bow has an angle to it, and it matches when you locate the trigger, basically in orientation with the frame, the trigger bow angle will be matched the frame. If you turn it over incorrectly, right, the trigger bow, the angle on the back of the trigger bow does not match the angle of the grip frame. So locate this little slot, correctly orient the trigger, and drop it in. Now we're going to have to reassemble our magazine catch and magazine catch retainer. You put the spring over the magazine catch retainer, either end, slide it over. There's a small end and a large end on this particular spring. Spring first into the magazine catch. There's the little flange that we have to line up, and we have to tuck, compress the spring with the screwdriver, and turn the magazine catch retainer counterclockwise as if we are disassembling from the frame. Push it in and rotate counterclockwise the flange completely into its little slot into the magazine catch. If you're having a tough time getting your magazine catch into the hole, it's because the little flange hasn't gone totally inside the magazine catch. So flop the frame over. From the right side, insert magazine catch. Now this time we're going to depress and manipulate the magazine catch as if we're going to release the magazine, and we're going to put clockwise torque on the magazine catch retainer. When it snaps in, you're done. The trigger and the magazine catch are in the gun. The next parts we're going to have to put in is a sear and disconnector. The sear and the disconnector are going to orient like this and this inside the gun. Now to manipulate this, you're coming from the front of the sear and put the disconnector. So the disconnector comes from the front into the sear. It's going to go like that. It's going to rest on the trigger bow right here. Top of the disconnector is going to come out the disconnector hole in the top. To facilitate this, I grab them both as if they're oriented to go inside the gun. I grab them down as far as I possibly can. I locate the disconnector hole on top, that's that little bitty hole. I'm going to drop the disconnector nose into the holes and drop the parts. What that's going to do is allow me to lay the gun over on its right side and observe through the hole when both pins line up, both holes line up like that. I'm going to put in the sear pin. Now the sear pin is a shouldered pin, so it is directional. This is the left side of the gun with the little head on it, and it goes through over to the right. Drop that right in. Manipulate your sear and your disconnector over, and the sear and disconnector are in the gun and correctly oriented. But on the Series 80 gun, we have one other thing to get in there, and this is the trigger lever, and it goes to the right side of the sear and disconnector. So now I'm going to have to remove the trigger lever. My sear and disconnector have fallen over to the right. On a gun without the Series 80 parts, you will not have this problem. On a Series 80 gun, you will. I have to push the sear pin out part way, like that. And then I'm in that slot between the sear and the frame on the right side. I'm going to have to put in the trigger lever. Now gravity dictates that I lay the gun down on its side, slide that trigger lever gently up to the top, and get it about halfway up the trigger bow that was discussed earlier. My sear pin fell in. Safety trigger lever up to a point about there. I push the pin on it. I'm not in the hole. I can flop the gun over on the other side, determine where the hole is, and line up my firing pin safe with the trigger lever. So the trigger lever is correctly assembled. Sear and disconnector is correctly assembled. At this point, I'm going to grab the other shouldered pin, the large diameter shouldered pin, and I'm going to put the hammer in. The hammer is going to be located on this hole. Put the hammer pin in, hammer pin, the strut hanging out. This is the hammer strut. But I'm also going to have to put in the Series 80, the safety lever. This is the way it's going to go in around the hammer pivot, but it goes on the right side of the hammer. So out it comes, pin slightly over to the left from the top in this orientation, drop in the lever, the safety lever, and it will go straight down. Once I pull out the pin far enough, straight down, push in the hammer pin to verify you are correct. When you press the trigger now, the safety lever will rise, and when I push it down, I will return the trigger forward. Trigger back, lever up, trigger released, lever down, trigger forward. Everything is correct. At this point, I'm going to have to put in the three-legged spring, the sear spring. Sear spring has a couple of bends in it, and they always go to the forward part of the gun. On the bottom is a little bend, and on the top is a little bend. The way you're going to have to put this thing in correctly, in the right way, is on the bottom of the frame is a slot. That's going to accept a slot in the bottom of the sear spring. If you come too steep, you're going to bump into the frame here, so I come in rather shallow. So I come in rather shallow, it clicks on the bottom, the sear spring is in the correct position. Spring is in place. I'm going to maintain control of that sear pin by partly sliding up my mainspring housing to put slight pressure on the sear spring so it doesn't fall off. Right now at this point, I'm going to do a function check and make sure I'm correct up to this point. I should be able to cock the hammer, click, can't push the hammer forward. I'm trying to push the hammer forward. Press the trigger, push the hammer. The hammer will not cock with the trigger back. You let go of the trigger, the hammer will cock. The hammer must be in a full fired position to continue reassembly. Okay, at this time I'm going to go ahead and grab the plunger tube housing material. This is the safety detent plunger, the safety detent spring, and the slide stop plunger. So the small plunger goes in first. Slide that all the way forward. Okay, at this time we're going to have to get the hammer strut down and forward. We're going to lay in our grip frame, our grip safety, roughly orient it to its little hole in the back of the gun. And I'm going to get my thumb safety. My thumb safety is going to go through the grip safety and retain it. But now I have to compress the plunger tube safety detent. Roll the gun around, look at it from the top, and you can see where the safety detent plunger is. I'm going to rake it forward. The hammer must be cocked. Push that plunger forward, slide the safety over to the right. Safety should go over. You must compress the plunger tube safety detent forward to get the safety in. Once that is done, deactivate the grip safety, put pressure on the hammer, press the trigger, put the hammer in a full fired position, relax everything. Now we have to get the hammer strut into the cap pin on the mainspring housing. To do that, I'll shake the gun, get that hammer strut inside the groove in our grip safety. I'll compress the grip safety, slide the mainspring housing up. You'll notice how the top of the mainspring housing captivated the grip safety and does not let it rotate further to the rear. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and get my mainspring housing retaining pin, round side, concave side, round side first, line it up, and give it a smash until it's flush on both sides. We're going to do a check again. I'm going to cock the hammer, we're going to captivate the hammer, we're going to press the trigger, make sure the hammer falls. Right now the hammer should not cock with the trigger held back. I'm going to come with a little punch. I'm going to push the disconnector down. At this point, now I'm going to be able to, with the trigger pulled, I'm going to be able to cock the hammer. Release the trigger to the reset click, repress trigger, it should fire. We have successfully completed all the functions in the frame. Cock the hammer, put on the grips. Put on the grip panel, locate its little screws, start each one. Get them started, get the correct fitting screwdriver, and orient the screw and screw it in. The bottom screw, there's no necessary torquing these screws down. Just get them tight enough to hold the grip in. And we'll give this one a little tight. The upper one tight. Flop it over. Do the other grip panel. Screw. Upper screw. Tight. Frame together. Put the frame aside. Grab the slide components. Slide, barrel bushing. Remember, as mentioned before, this collet style bushing should be replaced. Recoil spring cap, recoil spring guide, firing pin spring, extractor, firing pin stop and spring, slide stop, and firing pin stop, firing pin safety and spring. Okay, lay the slide on its sights. From the rear, push in the extractor. The extractor has a little flange on it right here that holds the firing pin safety in. So it's imperative that when you slide the extractor in on the right side of the slide, that you do not push it all the way forward, because it has to be out about 5 thou to accept and to allow you to slide the safety spring first up into the slide. You slide the safety spring first up, then you push your extractor that 5 thou forward, and that will retain the firing pin safety. Extractor should be flush with the back of the slide, and its orientation should be roughly so that you could slide up the firing pin stop. We will verify this at this time. Slide up the firing pin stop. It goes up cleanly, so we can remove the firing pin stop. What I'm doing now is verifying that my extractor and the firing pin safety and spring are correctly oriented. So at this time, go ahead and slide your firing pin spring first into the hole, but it won't go all the way forward until you push up and hold your firing pin safety. Slide your firing pin forward. Keep safety depressed up. Slide firing fully forward. Release safety. That will hold your firing pin in the forward position. Drop in your firing pin stop. Back, right, left, bottom. Locate its tongue and groove. Drop in your firing pin stop. Depress the safety once. It'll release the firing pin. The firing pin will go through the firing pin stop, retaining it into the slide. At this point, I'm going to orient my barrel, get the link in the forward position, and come from the front part of the slide and slide the barrel in. Because this is a collet bushing, I'm going to go ahead and push my collet bushing. It's going to take some force over the end of the barrel and slide it back about 1 inch. When it's back about 1 inch, it has free rein. When it's in the forward position, it will not rotate. It'll want to rotate the barrel. This is one of the problems with the collet bushing. Grab the collet bushing, get your recoil spring guide. Recoil spring guide goes over the closed end. If you have a spring that has a closed end and an open end, the open end will always go to the front part of the gun. The recoil spring and guide will go over the closed end of the spring. Recoil spring guide has a radius in it. The radius will go towards the barrel. This is the top. I'm going to come from the front of the gun, push the barrel out again. In order to orient the bushing, there's a flange. I'm going to rotate the barrel bushing over to the left. That will engage the flange, push the barrel bushing back. Rotate the barrel bushing over to the right side of the gun. Keep the barrel bushing over because it'll interfere with your recoil spring guide going forward. The radius on the recoil spring guide goes towards the barrel. You're going to grab a hold of your frame. You're going to ensure that the firing pin, the gun is going to be resting like this, and the firing pin safety lever should be may fall up. So when I go ahead and grab my slide assembly, manipulate the link somewhat to that position. You do not want the link into the rear all the way back. You have to have it in a forward position. Grab a hold of your slide and frame rails and engage them from the rear. Ensure that your safety is down. Line everything up and push it back. When you push it back, see how it caught on my bushing? Slide to slide all the way back, and it will automatically orient the link pinhole to accept the slide stop. Put in your slide stop from the left side, go ahead and push the slide forward. If your slide comes off the front of the gun, you did not correctly engage the slide stop with the link. Slide it back to the takedown nub, push in your slide stop all the way, return your gun to battery, thumb up to thumb safety. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the mainspring cap. I'm going to put it over the front of the mainspring, and we're going to depress it to the rear, and we're going to compress with great force my bushing. Push it down until it goes over the recoil spring cap, and then continue to push the bushing around, and a bushing wrench would help with the collet bushing until it aligns with the mainspring cap. Thusly, take the safety off, rack slide, 1911.